You're listening to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast.
This makes my nipples hard.
Classic gaming friends, welcome to the show. In today's episode, Paul and I are chatting about comedy in adventure games. Specifically classic adventure games. Maybe we'll touch on some new adventure games. We're going to talk a little bit about different styles of comedy, things that we find funny or not funny. And hey, chances are maybe we'll be funny during the episode.
Yeah,
right?
look,
Paul?
this is going to be hilarious. It's
funny.
it's already quite a riot. I'm terrible at this episode. If everyone is listening now, then that means we got through an episode, which is amazing. Because there's not a lot of comedy in adventure games, like for a whole episode, right? And we'll get into that, I guess. Or maybe this is me getting into it now. But boy, there's not a lot of games that there's not a lot of comedy out there. Like there's a lot of indie comedy, but like in classic adventure games, there's not a lot of ones that were like trying to be funny. So
I never thought that.
No,
I thought there's the innate touch of humor in every King's Quest game, in every Space Quest game, in every Police Quest game, even if it's just taking a character out of one place and then putting them somewhere where they're not supposed to be. Oh my God, instant funny.
No, you're totally right. So I guess what I'm saying is like not a lot of classic adventure games where the genre of the release was comedy. So
None,
there's actually. I guess maybe Larry, Leisure Suit Larry. Like you could say that. I mean, it's almost more adult, but like you could say that was
adult
just humor. They were just comedies, I guess, or maybe Space Quest, but not the first two. But yeah, because even Space Quest is kind of dominated by the sci-fi factor. So to rephrase my initial point is like there's not a lot of games that like classic games that they're like, hey, we're here to make you laugh and that's it. Like we're just funny old games. Freddy Farkas is one. Right, so they're out there, but I guess that's kind of more what I mean, right? Like, we're just going to be a comedy.
Interesting, like the Monty Python's A Complete Waste of Time, something like that, completely irreverent, meant to be funny from beginning to end. Instead of elements of humor throughout an adventure game, throughout an action adventure game, right? Yeah, elements of humor. Even Freddy Farkas. Then, if you look at it. It's kind of like a comedy adventure, but it's elements of humor within the category of an adventure game. Some more funnier than others. Quest for Glory, always funny, puns all the way through, but it wasn't released as a comedy game at all.
Right. This is really it's kind of interesting. So what would be considered if we were to think of the adventure games momentarily as like a movie release? Like, because Freddy Farkas, you could get really carried away and be like, well, then none of them are comedies. They're all something else, like a Western with comedy happening. But it's like, if it was a movie, would it be considered a comedy or an action adventure? So let's look at it that way. Because I would say Freddy Farkas, for example, would be billed as a comedy, right? Because it's just kind of just goofy.
Wild West comedy adventure, like King's Quest would be comedy drama.
Right.
Quest for Glory would be action adventure comedy with a bit of drama. They'd all kind of be like mixed genre.
Right. There's not a lot of like just over, I guess. Okay. So let's look at the Lucas side. Because like, what about Day of the Tentacle? Like,
yeah, that's a comedy probably.
No, you know what? Sam and Max.
Because it's a cartoon, isn't it? Sam and Max is definitely
that's a safe comedy.
Drama.
Yeah. This is surprisingly difficult to nail down. Because Day of the Tentacle is like, is that all it's trying to be as a comedy?
People would say it's one of, like, I was looking up what people were saying about funny adventure games just in the various guilds today. And time again, Dot came up as being the funniest adventure I've ever played.
Huh. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to meet that with such criticism.
funny? Let me think.
Like, I know it wasn't even your personal opinion that you just said there. I
No.
kind of really gave it the treatment. I was like, interesting you would say that. But no, I'm just just really trying to think of like what else it would be if it's not a comedy, right? Because it's like a time travel based thing. No, it's definitely a comedy.
Toonstruck's a comedy, comedy adventure, time travel, kind of world travel, but it is a comedy. I mean, there's Ben Stein.
Right. Okay. Not every game gets shoehorned in because of Ben Stein, but this one definitely does.
and even like some games, like I know you don't play Heroes of Might and Magic, but they even introduce elements of comedy into the game by making little references and little funny statements here and there hidden that people in the know would go, ha, that is quite funny. I see where that comes from.
They would go like that. Yeah, that sounded
Just
a lot
like
like
that.
them. Yeah. You really nailed the general public back there. That impression.
They're like, how does she know what we sound like? Oh my God.
Okay, all right. What about Space Quest? Because I'm thinking of like the Orville. How is the Orville billed as a comedy or is like a sci-fi? I mean,
Comedy,
it's Seth MacFarlane
sci-fi.
as both, right?
It's both. And Space Quest 4. Jump right in there. Why did I love that game? Because it's funny. What kind of humor did I like? I liked Gary Owen's sassing. I liked the deadpan, this isn't funny because it is actually funny because I said it, and haha, you suck. And I'm like, this is great.
Right. Yeah, I liked the okay, all right. So I liked the narration because it was like he was just giving you the business the whole time. It was like a nice older sibling kind of treatment.
Mm-hmm.
But Space Quest is tricky because the first two, like I would definitely say were like sci-fi. And like, and you laugh a little bit every now and then. That's really diminishing it. But the point is like the focus wasn't on the comedy until like maybe until the third one. But then the fourth one is like, yeah, once they're Roger Wilco build, they're just straight going for yucks.
And then that people are like, oh, well, they're just turning them into like number 5 being a lot of references to Star Trek and this and that, and just kind of like trying to shoehorn it in as being that kind of a humor. And that as the series went on, they did that more and more instead of being original with the humor, using callback and references instead of actually trying to be funny. Now, hey, again, not my opinion. This is just stuff I've seen around.
Right. Yeah, and I guess that's all just a personal taste thing too. Because like I know like my brother is like really anti references, like just the kind of person that like sees it as like cheap or easy. But I think it's just certain people's thing. Like they're really into it, and they kind of like I don't know. I guess I where do you stand with it? Like parody humor.
If I get it, I think it's funny. If I don't get it, I hope it's funny enough to stand on its own without me getting it. That's always my hope. Like, I hope it's not only funny because it's referencing something and I see it. I hope it's funny enough so that when I see it and I don't get the reference, I still go, oh my God.
Right. So that's the risk of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the risk of it is okay. Well, what about?
Or it has to pass by without me noticing it or something, and I'm like, it didn't matter. It was inconsequential.
Right, that's a shitty best case scenario, though. Like, well, at least I didn't notice it sucking.
Yeah,
or going over my head. So, like, what about? What about classic games with parody? Like, because I guess what I'm saying is, with Space Quest 4, like, the parody was of the time, so it's like 1992 references. So it's like, but it doesn't make it automatically worse like you would maybe think, right? Or it's just like, oh, now they're references, but they're really outdated. Because there's actually like it comes back around again, right? Where it's like charming because it's so outdated. Like to see the Radio Shack store or whatever it was called.
You were talking about classic games.
Yeah, no, totally. I was definitely talking about that thing you just suggested I was talking about.
But it's like fourth wall humor. It's the same thing. If you either freaking love it or hate it, it turns out it's an actual thing. It delights and surprises me when all of a sudden a character looks right at the camera and talks at me. Thank you, Zach Morris. Like Doogie Howser. I don't know, like any of them when they're. I don't know if Doogie did it, but Scrubs
definitely did it.
Scrubs did it a lot.
And I loved it about Scrubs, huh?
anything
You
about
make me realize I
The
do like
Office?
that, right? Because I have a
Mhm,
proclivity to look down upon it for some reason. Because it's like
mhm,
it's because like in making my own game, I'm trying to avoid it. We just talked about it recently because
mhm,
for everybody listening, that's kind of, I guess, rude to break into private conversation in the middle of a podcast. But I just had this moment in the game where it's like it's as close to breaking the fourth wall as it can be while still getting away with it, while still having an
mhm,
out, like a perfectly good, pre-thought out, meditated out to be like, nope, wasn't breaking the fourth wall, and you just thought I was for a second, like one of those deals. And I was running it by Anna to make sure that it didn't exactly cross the line, because I guess I'm trying not to, because I think it's maybe I don't look down on it, but I feel like it could be easy, or it could be like a slippery slope where like I can't stop myself
mhm,
once I start or something, right? But it's a very adventure game thing to do, and I do like it. Like I like it in Scrubs a lot. I don't know. What do you think?
mhm,
Because there's, I guess the two arguments against it would be either it being easy or it breaking immersion. So like, what do you feel about
mhm.
it?
I love it. I don't care. Like I don't get immersed.
Right, right.
I'm not
To that
I'm
extent,
not
yeah.
immersed in the first place.
Gross.
So if I'm so immersed that that breaks my immersion, I don't know. Maybe I don't even know what I'm doing at that point. I don't even know where I'm going with this. The point is
No,
I
it
freaking
did.
it makes me laugh in any TV show, in any movie, and say it's overdone and I'll probably love it 10 times more. You can't do that on television when the person on the show would look at us at the studio audience and explain how a dynamic was or something that happened, like, all confidential, like to the camera, stuff like that. I think it's hilarious.
Right. I mean, it would be hard. You'd be hard pressed to find a critic of it that's also a huge fan of adventure games, right? Because
Right.
it is almost like a time honored tradition of it in a sense. And really, I should say too, just for clarity or disclosure, if not anything else, like with the game, I break fourth wall all the time, but only with the user interface. Like I'd like to try to fuck with
Hmm.
the players that way. Like almost feels like intermission in a sense, it's like taking a
Hmm.
little break and then just bloody give them the business that way. So it's like it's still there, like it's still appreciated. But yeah, and I guess you're right too, because I don't. When I hear the immersion argument, it makes me feel like I just don't play games or watch stuff as good as other people, because I'm like, well, I
Me
just
too. I'm like, I'm
like,
missing
what do
some
you?
here,
I
man.
feel that way sometimes when people describe food, where I'm like, I don't know if I taste things as good as everybody else does, because it's like
No.
it's just not there for me. But with the immersion thing,
Mm.
it's the same argument where it's like I don't. Yeah, I don't. I like. I know I'm playing a game, so it's. I don't.
Yeah, like, does immersion matter the same way with classic games as it does with like a new game with fancy schmancy graphics where you're trying to be immersed? You're sitting
Right.
with your big speakers and,
Speak.
and watching it on your TV and
Yeah, I'm starting to have a
all up
stroke.
in immersed.
That's how to keep Anna busy. Just be like, go stand in the corner and say immersion for a while. It should buy us 20 minutes.
just, just stand there looking in the mirror. It's kind of like saying like, boobs 50 times in the mirror. By the time you get to like time number 42, you're like, this isn't even a word anymore. What the hell am I doing?
Well, it's okay. Here's a good way to that I could maybe put this. I shouldn't have guaranteed it was a good way off the bat, that's for sure. But another way to
Promises,
look at it
promise.
is like okay, I'm trying to walk in the shoes of somebody who doesn't like the immersion or doesn't like the fourth wall breaking because of the immersion. And I would imagine this Red Dead Redemption 2 is I love that game, and I'm very immersed in that game. I'm very like into that story, and as much as I think could be. So it's like and furthermore, that game it wouldn't be appropriate for a character to just break a fourth wall. It'd be super weird.
Mhm.
It's not even a little bit of a comedy. Speaking, let's
Hey
take,
there, partner, push B on the controller and see what happens.
as I take a 5-minute detour into a game that is definitely not a comedy in this episode. but it's like, even if Red Dead just had a goofy like Guybrush stares at the camera fourth wall break, I wouldn't be like, great, now the experience is ruined. Like like it might be like, oh, that was weird, or That didn't really fit the game well. But I couldn't imagine being like so put off that it's like, well, now that I'm out of immersion, I'll never get back in it. Like clearly, like
what happens if somebody interrupts you? Like, for example, you have to go cook lunch in the middle, you being whoever's playing the game. Does that break immersion as much, as little, or not the same way as a fourth wall placed in a weird place? Like, is it that's like, oh my God, great. Now I have to cook macaroni. Oh my God. Like, not that I'm trying to say any of you lovely listeners do that. I'm just curious. Like,
right, well, I do.
what
If
is
you're one for one,
where immersion is broken? I mean, does it have to come from within the game? Is it the same immersion that's coming from in your outside circumstances? Like, I don't even know how it works because I don't get it.
I would say I was going to be like annoyingly objective and be like, well, in the case of the noodles, it's like it's different because you or in going to the bathroom, whatever. It's like you chose to break it, so like you're aware. But then as you went on to the next thing, which was the noodles bit, I was like, oh wait, that would actually just be a microwave beeping out of nowhere, and it's not really a choice because then it's like you're ripped out of the thing from the beeping. Or like anybody,
or
that's
your
a
cat
parent,
meows,
like,
or
yeah,
your kid
asshole.
is hungry.
Yeah, cat. Yeah, and so there's plenty of times when it's not your choice and it's at home. But I also think that fourth wall breaking, like it works, like when it works and when it's funny is in part because it does like rip you out of it, where you're just like, whoa, like I forget, it's like it violates it so good, where it's just like, wow, I did not expect you to just like kind of catch me vulnerably playing this game and like look right at me and say something. So that's also why it works. But anyway, that's a kind of humor, and we're oddly on topic. So
we are actually, even like, okay, Doki Doki, without spoilers, it was kind of like fourth wall breaking, humorous in its own way, with its own personality, in this kind of like incredulous, holy shit kind of a way.
Right. I don't fully understand the word meta, but that's what that was.
Yeah,
it was like
very
it was
meta.
like beyond. Yeah, it was like I don't know the difference between fourth wall and meta, but I feel like I would just want to pretend that meta is way more intense and just I don't know. Yeah.
There's a few meta games. Undertale is a meta game. It's the kind of game where you do stuff, there's choices, it's funny, your actions have consequences, and the game remembers what you do, even if you quit or you don't save. So unless you uninstall and reinstall the game, everything you do, it remembers, it knows, it talks to you. It's sentient in a way, right? In a way that's like mind-blowingly funny, kind of comedy, because there's fun stuff in there too, but it's also a little bit like, whoa.
Right. I won't spoil the game, but I'll try. I think I can word it in a way that anybody listening who's played it will know, and otherwise not. But there's one beloved adventure. Well, actually, that's immediately inaccurate because I don't know. There's one respected modern adventure game where the ending is incredibly meta, where it just shifts the whole thing into meta-ness. And I loved it, and I feel like almost nobody else likes it.
I liked it. It was
people
good.
make fun of it anyway, quite a bit. And I loved it. I'm kind of gullible like that, but I was just like I was well into it. I was like, oh damn! Like I was like I was like kind of shocked, and because I'm ignorant like that, like I get really lost in a story if they want me to be lost. I'm like, okay, I'm lost. So then you pull some shit like that, and it was like, yeah. So that was a cool moment. Okay, what about in jokes? Because in jokes brings it back to comedy, but still in like a fourth wall zone.
Right. I mean, I like Sierra kind of was based on in-jokes because I was kind of obsessed with them. I mean, oh my God, you're playing Police Quest 2 and then all of a sudden Larry's just like randomly waiting in the airport, or Ken sent me on the wall. It's like nobody that's not playing a Sierra game gets it. And I got it and it felt freaking good, man. I wanted to find those everywhere. I was obsessed. It's like reading a Stephen King series. I want to know there's all this like kind of characters joining and connections and lines. And I'm obsessed with that because of Sierra.
Right. Yeah, same. Because it was like that was such a great example because the first one I can maybe remember would be Police Quest 2 with Larry. And Larry's like a celebrity. You're like, oh shit, you know who this is?
Oh my God, what? Or like in King's Quest 4, when you find the message in the bottle inside the whale, and it's like an advertisement for either Space Quest or I think Police Quest or something, depending on the randomizer.
Right, and at the end of Larry 3. Going, maybe more, almost more. I guess maybe I'll use the word meta again, possibly incorrectly, but just like the whole behind the scenes, like almost like on a golf cart driving through Paramount, sort of
I
vibe.
know.
But it
Oh my
it
God, I
did
love
so
it.
much for my imaginative world building, because it made Sierra to
Mhm.
me feel even more like Disney, like just like this
Mhm.
magical place, like
Mhm.
where these amazing things, with all these characters I know and love are made. Um, and then LucasArts, like the first thing I think of is Sierra, but the first visual I get is usually Lucas, because of Last Crusade and like Sam and Max totems and things like that, where it's like they didn't do it as often, and maybe a little bit more subtly. It was honestly a lot of
Mhm.
just Steve Purcell putting Sam and Max into shit, but when Lucas did it, it was charming too, and it just, yeah, I guess that confirms it as like a full adventure thing.
Mhm. Classic funny. Yeah, I mean, LucasArts is standard. If they made it funny, it was going to be funny. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah, all right. So that's a good transition to just the to not anything we're prepared for, but I don't know if that's mandatory for transitions, but just looking at Sierra and LucasArts. Speaking of, so they are the comedy ones of the two, right? That's we got to give them their due, the devil their dues, or whatever, and
Mhm.
saying that, which is ridiculous because obviously we both love all their games, honestly. But just to give them their due is to say that like they did more comedies and more focus just on comedy in general, right? Because I
Mhm.
mean, Indiana Jones is like adventure first, but comedy second.
Mhm.
Almost like if Space Quest is comedy first and sci-fi second, right?
Yeah,
Indy's like
even
just
Full Throttle is comedy.
right, Full Throttle. Yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously Monkey Island, Sam Max, Day of the Tentacle. I
Mhm.
mean, Maniac Mansion was
Monkey
more.
Island relied on jokes, so it is.
Yeah, like yeah, that's another one too. Like, is Monkey Island a comedy? Like,
Mhm.
would people like mega fans of Monkey Island? Would Michael, would the Axel Wax Lips be like upset if it was sold short as just a comedy, or upset if it
Mhm.
wasn't called just a comedy?
Mhm.
How do people want to see it? Is kind of my question, because
Yeah,
it's
like,
like I don't know how to put it in a genre like the whole pirate thing. Like, it's just adventure. Like, it really.
well, what about Phantom Fellows? Is it a comedy? I mean, I see you posting. It's hilarious. It's funny. It's subversive. It's whatever it is. It's all sorts of words. But is it a comedy? Is it an adventure? What is it?
It is comedy in a biblical sense.
Mhm.
It is
Aha.
yes, it is a comedy in more of like the tragic meaning of it. I don't know. It's not. I just love the fact that comedy really stems from something that requires like tragedy to really be like, oh man, what a
Mhm.
comedy. Like, we do not use it like that anymore. Because I think the
No,
death of
that's great.
Jesus Christ is a comedy. I
Mm.
Please don't anybody clip that. Take that as an audio clip.
Well,
This just in: Jewish guy says Jesus Christ. Right,
well, if you watch Jesus Christ Superstar, I mean that in and of itself is a comedy.
but it's like it is the comedy of Christ. I think is like a,
Yes.
yeah, right. Okay, thank you,
Mhm,
Jesus.
mhm.
Well,
I'm trying to
you
help
know
you.
what? Thank you. It's just we're good here. I think we're good. That covers in jokes. No, sorry. All right, I'll actually answer your question. I would call it a comedy. I think it's a
Mhm,
spooky comedy. It's not very spooky. The
mhm,
atmosphere is spooky, but
hmm.
but I'm just trying to make people laugh, I think. Well, that's not
A
true. I'm
hilariously
just.
atmospheric game. So-
This is tripping me out because it's one thing I didn't account for was that it's hard to find any adventure game that's just a comedy, because I don't even want to commit my own to that now. Now that we're like overthinking
Mhm,
it, right? Because I'm like, well, I mean, there's like arches and character growth and there's like a lot more going on. I don't want to sell it short. Like, I'm just trying to make you laugh. Like, yeah, that's 90% of it for sure. But like, and then there's the whole like you're dealing as our friend Jack from Adventure Game Hotspot pointed out to us, or to me, both of us in that interview, where he's just like, but you have to understand that people aren't going to assume comedy when they see, it's about death. You got a ghost right there, and you guys, and it's like, oh yeah, it's a really good point. We probably should start letting people know it's a comedy, or to expect to laugh
mhm.
anyway. So it's like that's all
Well, I
just to
think it
say is that
was.
it is more. Yeah, go ahead.
It was Joshua, I think, or no, it was Jack when we were talking on the adventure game Hotspot with our lovely friends. And he said, how do people know it's a comedy? There's not a lot
Right.
of paranormal comedies out there. How are you going to let people know that that's even a thing? How relevant is it to your advertising? I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially it got me thinking because I hadn't really thought about that before.
Right. Yes, exactly. Same here. So, and thanks to Jack for that, because and I'm sure he's noticed that all of the tweets immediately changed tone
Mhm.
to be like hilarious adventure game. That really,
Exactly.
really thanks to him pointing it out to be like, hey, just an
Mhm.
average person who sees paranormal investigation with a ghost might not think, it's going to be hilarious.
Mhm.
So you should
Like
probably
South Park, The Stick of Truth. Everyone's like, that's going to be a funny game. And it was a funny game.
right.
But people are like, that's a comedy. That is a comedy. It's based on a comedy. The game's a comedy. It's a
Right.
comedy.
But yeah, okay. So it really ties back to that very first point of like, is there any game that's just purely comedy? And I still only
Mhm.
can really answer Sam and Max and Leisure Suit Larry,
Mhm.
because Sam and Max is straight comic, like literally came from a comic book, and
Mhm.
it's a funny one. Yeah, yeah. I'm standing by that. I'm fortifying it in my mind, saying yeah repeatedly to
What
everybody. But
else? Goat Simulator. Goat Simulator is funny. I mean, it was meant to be funny. The goose game where the goose goes around. The Untitled Goose Game. I guess that's
that's right.
pure comedy, right?
Well,
The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy text game, maybe.
see, I would maybe leather god. Is there something about like the pure sex ones? Because it's like
Hmm. Leather Goddess might
yeah,
actually
like
go under that
Phobos and
rating.
Larry and stuff. Because it's like
Spell
but even
casting
then, it's like
101
it's funny.
even.
They're all comedy and something else. Like in
They
this case,
are.
it's adult.
Hmm.
What about red herrings? That's kind of fourth wally.
I don't like
Maybe not.
them. I don't like red herrings. I never have because I'm like, and some of the new games, there's red herrings everywhere because you're like, this person participated in this for that. And it's funny if it's a funny inventory. And I don't mind it if you can hold it, but I'd like it to have at least one purpose somewhere in some way, shape, or form. Otherwise, I'm wasting my time. If it's going to be a red herring, leave it on the wall. I'll look at it and think it's funny.
That's interesting. Okay, you're taking a hard stance on that, and I
I
appreciate it.
am. I
You
always
really got your
have with
foot
the red
down. I
herrings.
always
I
have.
really do. Yeah, it's just fucking red herrings. Like, cook that fish. No.
Long-time listeners know this. I've just because it is really close to. I don't know. I feel like well, I should. That's not fair. It's not like it's close to fourth wall because it doesn't have to be. Like if it's an actual like red herring or like a straight reference to Monkey Island, which like you said, there is a lot of that nowadays. And just going back to fourth wall for a second, I guess I should say I think that's maybe why I try to tame myself a little bit with my game is because I feel like it's gotten a little out of control
Hmm.
at time. I don't want to say recently, like to paint this dreary picture of like nothing but fourth wall references in games nowadays, because that's not the case. But it can be like okay, like I don't know. There's been moments where I'm just like I think we get it now. Like I think we're good. Like there's a good way to honor it, and there's ways to just beat it to death. And it's like all right, somewhere in there is where we got to land in the middle. But the point is like yeah, if a red herring is not done in like a straight callback way, I guess it can be funny. I think I can't really think of any remarkable red herrings as a problem
No.
besides the one
Like,
already mentioned, Monkey Island.
yeah.
And it's
I
usually like
just,
a reference from that now. Like if the other one I can think of is like Thimbleweed Park and they're making fun of the Monkey Island joke, which they're allowed
right.
to. Anyone's allowed to, but
Well, I was thinking of
most
red
people do it.
herring specifically in the terms of an excess inventory item.
And you're right. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Hmm.
All right.
Okay.
Well, listen, that
Yeah.
swung us wildly left field with that one. Didn't really. Oh, here's
I
one. This
just,
was your idea. What about some funny deaths?
oh, okay. Yeah. I mentioned it because the one that I'll always bring up is one of my favorites is just simply when you go to use the lockpick on your nose in the right versions of Quest for Glory and it goes in too far if your lockpicking skill isn't high enough. I think it's especially in the VGA version and then you die. So to me, that's like one of the funniest deaths ever.
Damn, I was supposed to think of these ahead of time. there's just like this little asshole in me that wants to say the glass one in Space Quest 3 because just because I know how much it pissed off the LucasArts guys, and it was just such a normal Sierra death, which does
like
mean
the
funny.
chandelier.
Yeah, it's just like that. Like
yeah.
that is a classic Sierra death is touching a sharp object. I mean, that's how we know these things, you know. But knowing that, like, I guess for backstory and the details are vague as always, but for backstory, like David Fox and Ron Gilbert cited that, and I think I don't know if this has been in print or if I heard it on the Thimbleweed podcast, which was a really fun dev podcast for anybody who doesn't even know it existed, and like just you're nerdy enough to listen to this, and you probably would like it because I did. It's really it was really good, but anyway, they were just saying that like the snap moment. So when LucasArts went from deaths in Indiana Jones and Loom to Crusade to nothing in Monkey Island 1, like adventure games suck article era, that like the snap that Ron Gilbert had that changed LucasArts in the sense was over that death in Space Quest 3 was because they were playing Space Quest 3 and I think it was David Fox or whatever. It doesn't matter. I shouldn't try to be detailed. This is no time for details. They basically, died that way, and we're just like, nah, this is the worst, and we hate this so much that we're gonna kind of change adventure games forever because of this goddamn piece of metal in Space Quest 3, which again just makes the trickster in me kind of love it because it was everything that we loved about Adventure Deaths. It was a little bit of consequence, especially if you hadn't saved, but then again, the game just started, but whatever. Point is...
Ooh, I was just thinking, how about combining a death with the fourth wall break when Leisure Suit Larry when he dies and he goes into the factory underneath and they have to make a new Larry.
Oh, brilliant. That is so good. Such good utilization of the death thing, too, to take it into the fourth wall. One. And there's just the messages, like especially the Space Quest ones, like 4. And
oh God, so many good
N5,
ones.
I think N5, but yeah, just so
and
good.
Getting naked in Police Quest, I almost forgot. I love getting that because you just take off all your clothes and you die. It's so good.
Right, that's right. I did that as a young child. I made that man strip down for me.
I was like, what is some of the Space Quest one when you become like slug meal or sudden decompression or like there's so many funny like death scenes and death
and just a little piece of art. I'm not saying it didn't take possibly a whole working day to do the art, but just that alone made them worth it. Like you said with the sledge one, where it's like a can, right? Some sort of like futuristic dog food or whatever is the point.
Yeah, that's exactly the chow. Whatever. But yes, even the deaths in King's Quest 6 when you're going into the after death and like all the guys are playing musicians in the back and like the Party of the Dead, Day of the Dead stuff. That stuff is funny.
Who are some good stiff men? Who's a good...
The narrators are the best at that dry humor.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Okay, I'm looking at Gary Owens or I'm looking
Perfect,
at, what's, oh my God, I'm going to sound horrible. The narrator from Quest for Glory 4.
I'm not supposed to know that. But while you're thinking of it, Sam's a good stiff man.
Yep.
I'm never confident that Sam's the dog, ever.
Never.
And it comes up a lot in this show. And it's every time I said it on the podcast ever, I've had a tightened anus.
John Rhys Davies.
I don't want to sound like an idiot and be like,
I'm sorry,
John. I host this adventure show, but I think Max is the dog. Like I gotta know these things.
We talked about John Rhys Davies and your anus in the same sentence, and I'm not sure about the order of anything anymore.
Wow.
That's who the narrator was in Quest for Glory 4. And he was funny because, and what was funny too, like, for example, when you're talking to the elephant farmers in one of the scenes, and each of them, like, they don't exactly follow the script throughout all of it. So it's funny because you're reading the words and they're different from what the guys are saying. And they're all like, it's funny. They're just like dirty, very dirty, talking about the people. And I don't know, it made me laugh like harder than anything.
Okay, that's actually...
But it's dry. It's super dry.
Oh, right. I won't shift into that. Okay. Because well, actually, maybe I will. Because I don't think I have any more stiff guys. I really just wanted to say Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Because actually, you know what? Credit to McQueen from Dark Side Detective. McQueen's a good stiff guy.
Mm-hmm.
In a very like classic, because stiff guys always pair good with with a dumb guy.
Even like,
To
well,
be like,
even in
what are you doing?
Toonstruck.
Get it together. So you like Pinky in the Brain, right?
Yeah,
That's your classic stiff guy, be the brain.
I like that. But even Christopher Lloyd was almost like that in
Right.
Toonstruck.
See, that's great because another like jumping off point I had here was like silly worlds and stuff. But I was kind
Mm-hmm.
of what I was getting at with that was like something like Toonstruck where the world is what's funny. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so that's a great example would be Toonstruck because then Christopher Lloyd is like he's the stiff guy for the rest of the whole world to contrast the world of
Mm-hmm.
the game. Right. There's a struggle there at the end, but okay, so what about worlds? Let's stay there for a second. How about Neverhood? That's
Mm-hmm.
pretty well. Actually, I guess the Neverhood, the world itself, is more like abstract. And
Yeah, it's wild.
um,
It's thought provoking.
yeah, just Neverhood is a really funny game. Like there's some.
Mm-hmm.
I think the hardest I've ever actually. And this was a question I had too. So I've got two. I'm going to jump to the question for the fun of it. So start thinking now of your. I'm going to ask you. I'm not cutting this. I'm saying this like a huddle away from everybody listening. Shh, quick while they're not paying attention. Try and think of like your funniest ever moment or two, like top one or two hardest times you've laughed in an adventure game. Okay, and then
Mm-hmm.
mine is there's two of them, and it really in accidentally ranked order. The first one is easily the Neverhood where he slams the door shut and runs into the door, and
Mm-hmm.
it's done to just the greatest soundtrack, one of the greatest soundtracks ever, which was the Neverhood soundtrack by Terry Scott Taylor. It's so good,
Mm-hmm.
like it's listenable on it, so it's so just goofy and weird and fitting, and the music along with this visual gag of him panicking from this monster that I won't try and explain. Almost did. That would have been a mistake. And slamming into a door is just amazing. So for the people who know that scene, at least maybe now a couple of them are like, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, and then the second one is Space Quest 5, and it's just a line, and who I don't know why, but it just really stands out as like peak adventure game laugh out loud shit. Was Rogers with Beatrice, and I don't remember the line, so I'm not even going to try, and I don't want to butcher it, but the point to get it across would be he like sends Beatrice in an emergency out of the ship ahead of him, and she thinks that he's being like a heroic gentleman by having her go first because she's a lady. And then when she gets through like alive, he's just like, oh man, thank God she survived. Okay, now I'll go. It's just like, man, just like the funniest shit. The subversion there. But anyway, so those are my favorite two. And what do you got?
So yeah, I'm obviously a huge fan of the humor in Quest for Glory 2. I like it in Keep on Laughing Shop because it's hilarious. You can click on everything. Everything has a funny description. If you go in one door, you're like, boom, you end up on the other side of the room and he kind of makes fun of you. You can get X-ray glasses that you could use later on. And then I absolutely love it with the source because you buy this majestic steed from this Groucho Marx lookalike and you can get a good deal if you're careful. But anyways, you take him out and it's like, oh, he's going to be there, and you go way off into the desert, and then all of a sudden a bad guy comes up and your source throws you off and like runs off, and then like you're sitting there going, what the hell, you beast? And like for me, that's like super duper funny. The characters in it are funny, the jokes are funny. That game to me made me laugh all the time. That's the big funny for me.
Dude, what game?
For Glory 2, man.
Two.
The
Okay.
trials by fire and stuff. That's the one.
Okay. So I was like panicking. Like I missed the most important part of this now. Okay, it's the second one. I did not expect
That's
that at
number
all.
2. Yeah,
Because you hear a
freaking
lot
funniest
about
game ever.
I hear a lot about one EGA and then 3, or the
Mhm.
battle between 3 and 4 for like the fan favorite. But I never hear
Mm.
much about 2. That's pretty cool. Much less like really funny. Jeez.
Oh my God, 2 is just amazing all the way through, and the in jokes, and like, okay, the whirling dervish off in the desert, and like, it's so good. Like the waffle, the hungry the awful waffle walker that if you wander off in the desert and you're like about to die and you're super hungry, he'll come and like give you eat him so that you can live
That's
and
amazing.
not die in the
The
game.
sacrificial waffle.
So it is.
That's beautiful. I really like that.
It's so good. Yeah, all of them are funny, and it's not just puns. They're just like significantly funnier than anything else out there. They're funny games. They were meant to be funny. They're punny and they're funny.
All right, I got a few more like little topics that I feel like we could get through a few more of them because they sound maybe fun. I did the whistle thing, like the beaver from Lady and the Tramp. Wish I could do that on command, like talk like that. Okay, anyway, what about protagonists? This is just kind of a weird. All of our notes have things like that start like death and comedy, red herring, puzzles, like just easily understand. And then this one's just beautiful minds. What? What? It's so protagonists that you could just listen to their regular thoughts and be entertained by them. Okay, I very obviously read that off a screen, but you get the point. So like for me that's Roger Wilco or I'm sure a lot of the audience would say Guybrush. Which I don't know. Yeah, because those two are really similar. That's like a whole nother topic, really. Honestly, just those two alone comparisons. But I would say Roger, where it's like you just want to click around and hear what they have to say. Like you just talk to me.
And
Like,
sometimes it's the character I want to hear. Sometimes it's the narrator I want to hear. Sometimes it's the.
I was just thinking that too. Right. No, that's such a good point because I was kind of fading out thinking like, well, wait a minute. How much of it is Roger and how much of it is Gary Owens? Because like, just talk to me, Gary. Just say things. But yeah, I don't. What else? Who are some characters like that? We got Guybrush and Roger.
Yeah.
I guess. Would you say Larry? You really like Larry?
Yeah, I like him, but I don't know if I like. I want to hear what's going on around the room, but I don't know that I want to hear.
Larry's
what
more like a premise than right. It's like the whole premise as opposed to just what he says. Right. That's
like in Freddie Farkas. I really, really want to read the text and see what the narrator and what Freddie's saying about stuff. Big time, and it's funny.
Right. You're totally right, and that's another one for the narrator. +1 on the or +2 on narration there. Yeah.
That's true. And I mean, Josh Mandel's writing obviously draws you in too. So.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He's really good.
Yeah.
All right.
You know what? Narrators are bloody funnier than the character. And then for me in Quest for Glory, there's no narrator in the earlier games, but there's like, when you're looking around the room, it's not from the hero's point of view. It's like this imagined narrator that's in a text box that's like, you see a group of glass shelves on the wall. But every time you click on the books in the bookshelf, it'll tell you a different book. And there's like 10 different ones to go through. And it's funny.
Right. It's funny from a development point of view, like all the little things you have to keep in mind and make decisions on if you wanted to make an adventure game. And I remember the narrator one, obviously early on, but it's just like, whoa, that's heavy. Like that changes the whole like tone of a game if you choose like maybe not the tone, but like having a narrator or not is like a totally whole different approach to things. Like
some people hate narrators too. Like some people really don't like narrators.
Interesting.
I've heard it. My oldest son doesn't like it.
Well, and I just saw something like a couple people on Twitter agreeing that they really didn't like Gary Owens.
What is going on here?
I don't know.
Blasphemy.
I don't know. Huh. I wonder if that whipped up anybody listening. I wasn't trying to, but it's kind of funny to think.
I just got a little whipped
right,
up.
I know. It was like, what kind of chain reaction was that? It was like 17 other people at the same time were like, what? Like,
everybody's going to be madly tweeting hashtag Gary Owens rocks or something. You know.
How dare you? I know, but it's just a thing I read, maybe. But so, okay, another one, because I think we're good with that one. What about? Let's see, is there any crossovers? Not really. We kind of talked about that with Larry and Police Quest 2.
And then the funny ones that came out, the fan crossovers, like what was it? The Back to the Future mixed with Indiana Jones, I think, and all those kind of funny ones.
Right. A crossover? What about visual humor? Because that's the Neverhood.
Slapstick visual humor.
I'm going to give it Neverhood was definitely like not only great with visual humor, but really good like without translation required. You know, like any language. It was just like it was. They didn't say
Like the
words.
shows Zig and Charco. Zig and Charco, they don't say any words. It's all in. It's a French show, I think. There's no words at all.
Yeah,
But it's. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's
I
bloody
have.
hilarious.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's funny.
No, it's good. It's like a modern Saturday morning cartoon, right? Is that fair?
Yeah, it's almost like Ren and Stimpy without the
Right.
words.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's get to the fun, meaty ones, and we can be done. So we got. Well, we did that one. Okay. Well. Okay. Who would you pick as the funniest protagonist?
Ooh. Yeah, probably Roger Wilco, because of he doesn't even know he's funny.
Right. I'm trying to pick a different person.
Oh my God. Can you either have him or Larry? There's really not a lot of choices out there, buddy. Freddie Farkas, we've talked about them all. We have some clear champions in this ring.
Right. I mean, the people's choice would be Guybrush. I could say that. That's for sure. But
Mighty
to me,
Pirate.
I can't help but compare Guybrush to Roger, and I'm just more keen on Roger. So then it's like it's not fair. Yeah, LucasArts was they. I'm going through all their games mentally, and it was like there wasn't a single one, right? They all just kind of like it was a Day of the Tentacle was a group, and Sam and Max was two people. Obviously, we covered Guybrush, who was just one, but there's no other ones for me to pick from. It seems like. I mean, I love Indy, but I couldn't pick him like comedy wise. All right, yeah, just Roger. Fuck it, I give up.
Roger wins.
Okay, what about funniest antagonist?
Oh, that's funny. How about Tim Curry as the bad guy in Toonstruck? At the end, after you're in jail and stuff, it's later in the game.
That was a very, very stupid sounding. I just let out.
I'm sorry.
No, that was me. I just went. It was just so. Dirty.
I'm just trying to be Canadian.
Okay, apologize. No, Tim Curry and Toonstruck is what you're picking.
Yeah.
Well, I don't like it, but I don't have any others.
Indeed.
So all I can really do right now is criticize your choice. Oh, I got one, Dr. Fred, because he's technically kind of a bad guy, and he's funny. I guess he's kind of not, but he is.
Isn't that the question? Doesn't he have to be funny?
Yeah, like Fred is like a theatrical performance is funny. Like he's tropey. He doesn't, you know what I mean? Does Fred actually say like funny things, or is you know what I mean? That's I get hung up on that.
Neil Patrick Harris in A Series of Unfortunate Events as the bad guy. If you've seen it, he's dramatically funny, but he's not funny.
Right. It's like the representation of them is funny. Their presentation is funny, but like they don't say funny things.
It's brain.
So that still counts as funny, though, right? And that's just a different kind of funny, a performative funny.
It is still funny. It's elaborate. It can be.
It's still funny because we're laughing. I just don't know why. Right? Yeah. No, in a performative sense, yeah. It's like the whole. Yeah. Okay. So I'll stay with Fred. Man, I made that difficult. I'm real sorry about that. But we had a nice philosophical breakthrough on what it is to be funny. So kind of Goldblum delivery. Top 5 ranked games. I'm not prepared for that.
No, hang on. I wrote something down somewhere here.
Hey, I played Pajama Sam with Strummer yesterday, and you kind of know that. I mean, you definitely know that because I was seeing a picture about it. But I'm just saying we talk a lot of shit on here, but we do the shit too. Like we just got done talking about kids and games, and I'm like, we had a moment. He actually picked it. I mean. He would get cooler points if I omitted the fact that the Wi-Fi wasn't working, so he had to pick from very few downloaded things on there. But
right.
He was in Steam, and he could have played BeamNG or whatever driving game, but he picked that, and we played it all the way through and finished it today. Okay, did you think of stuff? Do you have your list?
Yeah, I have an idea of my list. We're good. I'm gonna jump right in with Quest for Glory 2, because I've brought it up a few times as being flipping funny. Funny.
Okay.
So funny.
Are you doing this in order from 5 to 1? That's a big ask. You don't
No.
have to. Okay.
It's
I don't even
it's
have 5 games.
I don't. I'm like, I pick that game. I pick Space Quest 4 because we've talked about it again too. I've picked Freddy Farkas because we've talked
Freddy
about it again.
Farkas.
It is very, very funny. I pick, you know what? Space Quest 6 was funny to me. I thought Space
No,
Quest
Space
6
Quest
was
6 is really
hilarious.
funny. Yeah.
It's so funny.
I mean, just in a
It is funny. The game is
just
funny.
look
It is
and
a
touch
funny
and
game.
fuck with things as Gary Owens
Yeah.
and get to whatever. Sorry.
Mhm.
You're doing
It's
you're
true.
doing a better job at your stuff than I am.
You're trying, but that's funny. Quest for Glory 1 is funny. Even even King's Quest 5, okay? It is unexpectedly funny and whimsical.
Yeah, the more abusive Cedric is, the funnier it gets too. Because you're just like, who the fuck is this guy?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Those are great, man. Was that 5?
That was,
I think you did it.
I think I did.
Do you have a bonus pick? How about a modern one? Or am I being a dick by putting you on the spot with that?
No, I mean, I already said Undertale was pretty
Ooh,
fun.
nice.
I really like that game. There is no game Wrong Dimension. Again, indie game. Jack
Yeah.
mentioned it on a previous podcast. You can get it
Yes.
on an app. You can get it on the computer. The whole game is like you and the narrator arguing because you're just like, I want to play the damn game, and he's just like, no game here. But in the meantime, you traverse through like 5 different genres of game, and the whole premise to me makes me laugh my ass off. I love it.
Right. No, it looks insane in a great way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I might have even bought it but just haven't played it.
Yeah,
I might not
it's
have.
worth it. It's so worth to play it with your kid. Your kid will like it because the whole
Right.
time you're arguing with the game. The game's like, no, what you really want to do is quit in like a funny French accent. And you're like, and then it'll like change the language of the game on you and do all these ridiculous things. Like you have to unscrew it or you have to. It's like little puzzles, right? And you're just like, no, man, I just want to play the game. And it's because it makes the kids laugh. The kids just like, oh my god, piss him off. That's right, knock down his sign. Ha ha. We're gonna play your game. Like it's funny.
Wait. Oh, right. Okay, I didn't remember. I almost forgot. Because it is ridiculous. That's why I lost tracking. I lost traction. Or no, tracking. Really, I lost tracking. What's it called again, though, for real? It's because
There is no game Wrong Dimension.
Right.
Also, it's an indie game, and just my son he's finished it a bunch of different ways with all the different achievements, and he introduced it to another friend of ours while we were away on vacation, and then she was getting all up into it too. So it's any age.
Right. No, it looks like the good kind of ridiculous. Good kind of whatever.
There is a little mini adventure game hidden in it as well. So if that doesn't entice you, I don't know what will.
Yeah, and it's even on its own, it's considered adventure. Just it's more one of those. I think they don't know where to put it, but I remember seeing it, or like I've heard of it or know of it just because of it being called an adventure game somewhere, like on some top 10 upcoming or whatever that I was watching a long time ago. Okay, all right, I've kind of got 5, maybe that I can. Salmon Max, Space Quest 5. Thimbleweed Park and Neverhood and is that 5 or 4?
I think that's 5. Do a bonus.
Oh.
As long as you keep making noise, they won't think that it's gone dead.
Just trying to cycle through some dad noises I got back here.
Grumph.
Dude, I can't think of a single other thing that has ever made me laugh right now. That's how blanked out I am. It's like purposely evading me.
Larry.
Okay. I'm gonna just that'll do.
There you go.
So
well done.
Thanks.
Okay. I guess what I wanted to touch on is just there's so many different ways to have humor in a game. You've got the animation is funny, the background is funny, the premise is funny, the puns are funny, the text is funny, the narrator's funny, the character's funny. There's so many different ways these games have made me laugh over the years. And it is, for me personally, it's the humor that has brought me in. It's the humor, it's the naughtiness, it's, all of those things put together. And that's the kind of stuff that intrigues me more than, say, drama does.
Wow, that was actually really nice. That was really nice. Yeah, that's great. Because it's kind of like what we learned all along. This episode has a moral, it turns out, which is not being able to pin a single thing as just a comedy shows the complexity and the depth that the adventure game genre offers us. And
and we kind of covered that because we were at the beginning of the episode. Y'all heard it. You were here. We're kind of like, well, what is funny? What isn't funny? What do they mean? Where is it? I mean, we had to figure shit out that we didn't even know. Like, we've been learning throughout this whole episode. I feel even a little bit more than other ones, even though I'm like comedy, funny games. I already know all that stuff.
Right. No, because you're right. It kind of shows us that the spirit of adventure games is having a humorous outlook on whatever is thrown in front of you. It seems like that's common across 90% of them. It is like all the protagonists, especially in the classic ones, are trying to get through difficult times while maintaining some sort of even cynical or darker humor in certain regards. But regardless,
Gabriel Knight has its humor too. I mean, it's in all of them pretty much.
Turns out it's
sarcastic humor, but it's there.
Right. It's so interesting because before this, I really did learn something too, guys. Because before this episode, I wouldn't have said assuredly wow, having a sense of humor. Let's say it's almost almost just like an appreciation or at humor with life for an adventure, to be an adventure game protagonist, to be able to see things no matter what. Kind of like that Nietzsche thing we were talking about with the amor fati. It's exactly how weird that turned out to be the moral of the podcast.
Which is the stuff we talk about randomly, people, clearly. Actually, it's true. It is the shit we talk about randomly. I have to admit it. It's true.
It's so weird how that just wandered itself right into this.
That's amazing.
Because it's true that it seems to be the spirit of an adventure game protagonist is approaching life with a love for fate. So that's cool.
It's true.
And, it's a neat moment to end on.
Yeah. That's a great way to wrap it up. Those are some funny games. And I want to take a second before we finish the episode just to say thanks and continue to say thanks to the fans who write us after listening to the episode. It kind of makes us feel good because although we can see the numbers going up on the website, we don't actually know that people are actually listening. So when we got an email recently from Robin Sparks saying, hey, thanks for talking about playing games with kids. I've been playing games with my son. His son's name is Toby. And, I think that it's just so cool to hear that you're out there, that you're listening to us, that you're, it's influencing you to do other things, and just to take that minute to say an extra special thanks to you for writing in loyal, awesome fans. And now,
thank you. And it turns, what it is? It turns numbers into reality. Because for us, it's like we just see numbers, and it's like, okay. Well, I'm told that several, that several people listen to this, but then when somebody just puts that human connection to it, it's like, oh wow, okay, we're talking to a bunch of real humans. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. There's people out there and stuff. So
is it weird to call them weird humans? Does that make me sound not human? Do they know? Does that?
I didn't tell anybody, and nobody actually makes it this far into the episode. I think we're safe.
Sorry, I can't. I was trying to talk backwards. I've been trying to talk backwards since Ace Ventura. I still don't have it down yet.
I messaged you the nerf ripping nipping backwards stuff today.
Yeah, so that's weird. You did. That was a pretty good start.
Well, thank you. I thought.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, thank you so much for hanging out with Paul and I while we chatted about comedy and adventure games. And hey, maybe we even made you laugh once or twice, huh? During the episode without actually telling actual real jokes, huh? Right? So, what are some of your favorite funny moments in adventure games? What are some of the games that you think are funny? Write us,
Say
tell
them out
us.
loud to yourself now.
Say
Oh,
them
right.
out loud
No,
to
your
yourself
idea is better.
quietly.
Write us. That's right. That's
Tweet us, send us a message on Facebook, show us some activity so that we know that people are doing more than just acknowledging the fact that we're putting episodes. But hey, send us an email to mail@classicgamers.com. Find us on Facebook. We're a page and we're a group, Classic Gamers Guild. Super easy. Send us out a tweet at CGG Podcast or at Phantom Fellows, because that's the best way to guarantee a response. Maybe you prefer Instagram. I don't know, but we're totally there too.
we
At
don't.
CGG Podcast. No, we're totally there. We're all in the Insta. And of course, the adventure game Hotspot. I got a shout out to everybody in the adventure game Hotspot, all the awesome work that they do. Check out Adventure Game Geek, One Short Eye, Space Quest Historian, Conversations with Curtis. Everybody in there is absolutely wonderful. And of course, the Hotspot itself, Weird Gaming Adventure. Lots of really cool projects going out there. And of course, nothing in this show would be able to happen if it weren't for our fantastic Patreon subscribers. You, all you lovely people, especially Michael Council and Brian Manown, who are some of our very extra special thanksians. Also, Jean-Francois Paget. He's up in that very special thanks tier. So I did want to say it. And maybe he's not in there anymore, but he was, and I love saying the name. I don't care. It is.
If you have a cool name, you're a permanent member.
And here's my random shout out to people that are awesome and just happen to be subscribers. Una and Gus, you've been in the other tiers. We appreciate it. Ronald Dragsta, Skay Rugs, you guys have been followers and supporters for a long time. Chad Armstrong, you rock. Like Mark Fillion, there are so many that have been there to support us now and in the past, and we really appreciate. Adventure Game Geek, even you support us. You are absolutely wonderful. So thank you. If it wasn't for that, we couldn't do the free hosting. We wouldn't be as motivated. And hey, content's been arriving. We're not neglecting the Patreon anymore. We got you guys. We really do. So thank you.
Yeah, you did a great job. I don't want to fuck any of that up. So just don't do a murder.
Computer tried to update randomly and shut down my internet.
Wow. I'm not gonna make this a Windows thing. Unbelievable. Did you ever log into your Windows account when you don't have a profile picture? Do you see like that chunky, disgusting, pixelated there's just unpolished edges wherever you look. How could you release an operating system where the default avatar is like the wrong resolution? And it's all fucking blurry, just this gray, gross humanoid shape in a black circle. And it's all you know what I mean? It's so weird. You got these beautiful wallpaper backgrounds. Like I don't like Windows.
It just did the exact same thing again. I don't even know how to stop it. This is crazy.
Dude, I can't. At the risk of starting all these recordings with me, like just railing on Windows. Here's another one. So if you need Task Manager, which is like the emergency, my shit is not working, everything's frozen. I need to pull up Task Manager so I can tab to the problem area and force quit it. It's we were just talking about baselines the other night. Task Manager doesn't have baseline over a ton of programs. So like if you're in Steam and your game freezes and you pull up Task Manager, it pulls up behind Steam so that you can't see it or interact with it or force quit the frozen game. How does that ship?
That happens.
How does it ship, dude?